Some people mistake age for exit. They see white hair, a slow step, a shaky hand, and think that's the end of the story. But age isn't weakness. It's proof you survived what others couldn't. That night the diner was doing what lonely places do after midnight, pretending to be warm. Coffee steaming like breath in winter. Neon buzzing like a mosquito that wouldn't die. And at the counter sat a granddad with a bad leg and a good coat, hand steadying a mug that had seen better days. He didn't ask for attention. He asked for sugar. What he got was a shove. 4 boys in grown man jackets decided the room belonged to them. They laughed the way hyenas laugh, loud, teeth first, looking around to make sure everyone heard. One bumped the old man's shoulder by accident. Another palmed the cane and set it just out of reach, like it was a game. The third took a photo. The fourth told a joke that wasn't funny and laughed like it was. The granddad didn't bark back. He just reached for his cane with a slow, embarrassed apology that wasn't his to give. The room looked away, the way rooms always do when shame is contagious. The waitress froze. The cook hid behind a ticket rail. Somebody ought to do something is what everyone thinks right before nobody does. Then the bell over the door rang. Boots, a black jacket shrugging off rain, a face like a closed fist. He didn't say a word. He just reached up, flipped the little sign on the glass from open to closed, slid the bolt until the metal kissed home, and turned around with the kind of patience that gets mistaken for mercy. Jasonstatham had just closed the diner. Before we continue, to our returning viewers, thank you. Your support is what fuels us to bring these powerful stories to life. And if you're new here, we invite you to subscribe. With your help, we'll continue to share stories that inspire, challenge, and move hearts. And if this story touches you, please leave us a comment. Your words mean more than you know. The diner froze, not in fear yet, just confusion. Everyone had seen men walk in angry before, but this was different. Jason didn't look angry, he looked certain. He moved toward the counter like gravity pulled him there, rain still sliding off his jacket. The old man looked up, startled, hand halfway to his cane. Jason bent, picked it up, and set it gently beside him. "Don't worry," Jason said, voice low, rough as gravel. "You won't need to reach for that again tonight." The old man blinked. His lips moved, trying to form a thank you, but the sound got lost somewhere between gratitude and disbelief. Behind them, the laughter started again, uneasy now, like the punchline didn't land. "Oi, look at this, lads," one of the bullies said, forcing bravado. "Bald bloke's playing bodyguard for the antique." Jason didn't even turn. He poured the old man another cup of coffee, the pot steady in his hand. "Drink up," he said quietly. "Still hot." That calm was the worst thing for the boys. It didn't make sense. A real threat shouts, rages, waves a fist. But Jason, he was silent, like the eye of a storm that hadn't arrived yet. "Hey, I'm talking to you," the leader barked, taking a step closer. His friends flanked him, 3 shadows pretending to be brave. "You deaf or just stupid?" Jason finally turned. Not fast, not slow, just enough that his gaze landed on them like a weight. The air changed thicker, tighter. Even the neon buzz outside seemed to fade under the hum of tension. "I heard you," Jason said. "You just didn't say anything worth answering." The leader snorted, his grin cracking. "Tough guy, eh? Gonna teach us manners." Jason's stare didn't waver. Somebody should. The cook peeked from the kitchen, hands trembling around a spatula. The waitress froze with a coffee pot halfway to a cup, eyes darting between the men like a trapped bird. The leader puffed out his chest, trying to reclaim the room. "You think you can just walk in here and—" Jason raised a finger, one simple gesture. "Don't finish that," he said. It wasn't loud, but it didn't have to be. The room went still. Even the rain outside paused, listening. The leader's hand twitched, half thinking about grabbing Jason's jacket, half knowing it was a mistake. "You've got no idea who you're talking to." Jason's reply came like a slow heartbeat. "Neither do you." The youngest of the group laughed, too high, too shaky. "He's bluffing, mate, look at him. He's just some actor or something." Jason's eyes flicked to him. "And you're just some coward or something." The kid's mouth shut, fast. The leader snarled, trying to steer the fear back toward anger. "You think you're some kind of hero." Jason tilted his head slightly. "Heroes give speeches. I don't talk that much." The diner didn't breathe. The waitress slowly set the pot down, her hands trembling. The leader's pride couldn't survive the silence. He shoved the table forward, the plates clattering to the floor. Coffee splashed across Jason's boots. "What now, tough guy? You gonna hit an unarmed man?" Jason looked down at the spill, then back up. "You're armed with stupidity, and that's the most dangerous kind." That broke the dam. The leader lunged. Jason sidestepped, not even a full step, just enough, and the man's shoulder slammed into the counter. Jason's hand clamped down on the back of his neck, steering him like a misbehaving dog. A twist, a shove. The leader's face met the counter with a dull thud. His friends froze. Jason released him, the man slumping to the floor, groaning. "That's lesson one," Jason said quietly. "Respect your elders." The second thug came in, swinging wild and wide. Jason caught his arm midair, turned his wrist until the joint popped, then guided his momentum straight into a stool. Wood cracked, man dropped, sound echoed. The youngest stood back, shaking his head. "Mate, let's just go." The third one cut him off. "Shut up." He grabbed a coffee mug and hurled it. Jason tilted his head, it shattered against the wall. Now Jason moved. He didn't rush, he advanced. Step by step, steady, unhurried, a man who already knew how it would end. The thug swung again. Jason blocked with a forearm, stepped inside and drove a short hook into his ribs. Air exploded out of him like a popped tire. Jason leaned close enough for him to hear the whisper, "Sit down." The man obeyed before he even realized it. The leader staggered back to his feet, blood from his nose dripping onto the linoleum. You're dead," he wheezed. "You hear me? Dead." Jason looked down at him, unblinking. "You already sound like it." The old man tried to stand, clutching his cane, voice trembling. "Please, son, don't, they're not worth it." Jason turned to him, softening. "You're right," he said, "but someone's gotta remind them what worth means." The leader fumbled for his jacket, trying to recover what was left of his pride. "We're not done, mate, not by a long shot." Jason nodded once, "Then we'll take this outside." He walked to the door, unbolted it, flipped the sign back to open and stepped into the rain. The leader followed, dragging his wounded crew behind him. The old man stayed inside, heart hammering. The waitress whispered, "He's gonna kill them, isn't he?" The cook shook his head slowly. "No," he said, eyes still fixed on the door. "He's gonna teach them." Outside, rain slicked the pavement like glass. Neon light bled red across puddles. Jason stood in the middle of the lot, head bowed slightly, hands loose at his sides. The leader circled with his crew, spitting blood, rage shaking what was left of his voice. "You think you're some savior," he yelled. "You think this is a movie." Jason's jaw flexed. "No," he said, "this is your reality check." The leader charged, swinging wild. Jason stepped aside, one hand catching his coat collar, the other slamming into his chest. The man hit the hood of a parked car hard enough to set off the alarm. Another came from behind. Jason pivoted, heel snapping into his stomach, folding him in half. He collapsed, gasping, rain mixing with the tears of humiliation. The youngest one, the only one still standing, looked between his friends and Jason. His voice broke. "Please, I didn't mean." Jason held his gaze, "Then walk away." The kid hesitated, then ran. The leader groaned, dragging himself upright again, fury trembling in every movement. "You're gonna regret this." Jason stepped closer, eyes cold. "No," he said, "but you will." He took a breath, voice steady, deliberate. "Apologize to him, right now." The man spat blood on the ground. "What?" "To the old man," Jason said, "for thinking age makes him small, for forgetting what respect is." The leader hesitated. Jason didn't repeat himself. He just stared until the silence became unbearable. "I'm sorry," the man shouted finally, voice cracking. "I'm sorry." Jason nodded once. "Good start." He turned and walked back toward the diner, rain hissing on his jacket, leaving the sound of groans and thunder behind him. When he stepped inside, the bell jingled softly. The old man was still there, eyes wide, hands trembling. Jason pulled a napkin from the counter and wiped the rain from his face. "They won't bother you again," he said simply. The old man swallowed, his voice small but steady. "I know." Jason nodded, slid into the booth beside him and picked up the cup that had gone cold. "Shame about the coffee," he muttered. Could have used more sugar. The waitress stood frozen, then smiled just a little. She poured him a fresh cup, the sound breaking the silence. The bell above the door stayed still. The storm outside kept the world away. And for the first time that night, the diner really did feel warm. Outside, the rain eased into a drizzle, soft as breath. Inside, the diner glowed again, that cheap, flickering kind of warmth that only feels real after the storm's passed. The old man still sat at the counter, cane by his side, hands wrapped around his cup like it was something holy. Jason didn't eat. He didn't talk. He just watched the window, eyes fixed on the reflections of tail lights fading down the street. The waitress poured another round of coffee, her voice barely above a whisper. "You didn't have to do that." Jason looked up. "Didn't I?" She hesitated. "Most people would have just called the cops." Jason smirked faintly. Most people would have watched it happen and gone back to their pie. She wanted to argue, but she couldn't, because he was right. Everyone had seen it. No one had moved until he did. The cook poked his head out of the kitchen, eyes still wide. "Mate, you're not gonna stick around for the police, are ya?" Jason shook his head. "Never do." The old man finally spoke, his voice rough from silence. You didn't have to step in for me, son. They were just fools. I've dealt with worse." Jason turned toward him. "That's the problem. You shouldn't have to." The old man's lips trembled, caught somewhere between a smile and tears. "You remind me of someone," he said softly. "My boy. He used to stand like that when he was angry, shoulders forward, fists calm." Jason looked away, something tightening in his jaw. "He sounds like a good man." "He was," the old man said. "Didn't get to be an old one." The words hung heavy in the air. Jason nodded once, eyes distant. "Then let's make sure you do." The door creaked. For a second, the sound was just the wind pushing against the frame, until it was. The waitress froze. The cook stepped back. Even Jason's hand, resting on the counter, tensed just enough to notice. The bell jingled. 3 shadows stepped in. Not the bullies this time. Bigger, meaner. The kind of men who didn't laugh when they hurt you, they just made sure you didn't get back up. The leader of the pack had a shaved head and a look that said trouble S on the clock. The waitress whispered, "Oh no, those are with them." Jason didn't turn yet. "Friends." "Brothers," she said. "They run with the same crowd, local gang. The boys probably called them the moment they left." Jason exhaled slowly, the sigh more like a warning to the air itself. The new men scanned the room, then fixed on Jason. "You the one who laid out my boys?" Jason finally turned. His eyes were tired, not angry. "Depends," he said. "Were your boys the ones who thought breaking a man's dignity was sport?" The leader's grin was thin and humorless. "You've got a big mouth for someone sitting in my diner." Jason raised an eyebrow. "Didn't see your name on the door." The man chuckled. "It's there, just invisible to cowards." He nodded to his men. "Lock the door." The waitress gasped, stepping back. Jason didn't move. The bolt clicked. The lights flickered once. "I don't want trouble," the old man said, voice trembling. "Please, he's done nothing wrong." The leader ignored him. "Thing about beating up kids," he said, stepping forward, "is it makes real men curious." Jason stood, slow and steady. "If you were real men," he said, "you wouldn't need to prove it." That grin vanished. The room tensed. The first thug lunged with a broken bottle, the second circling behind. Jason sidestepped, caught the wrist, twisted crack. The bottle hit the floor, the man howling, clutching his hand. Jason drove his elbow back into the second's ribs without turning. The air rushed out of him in a wet gasp. The leader swung a chain. Jason caught it mid-swing, wrapped it around his forearm, and yanked. The man stumbled forward. Jason met him halfway with a headbutt that sounded like a hammer on wood. The chain clattered away. Jason caught him by the collar, voice low. "You walk in here like you own it. You leave like you rent it by the minute." The leader spat blood, tried to swing again, but Jason's knee came up fast, folding him in half. He hit the tile hard. The old man turned his head away. The waitress covered her mouth, trying not to scream. Jason looked at them, calm, steady, then at the door. "It's over," he said. But it was. The man with the broken hand, desperate and bleeding, fumbled into his jacket and pulled something small, silver, deadly. "Gun." The old man's eyes went wide. "Look out." The gun fired. The noise cracked the world in half. The waitress screamed. The cook ducked behind the counter. Jason had already moved. The bullet tore through the sleeve of his jacket but missed flesh. He crossed the distance in 3 strides, slammed the man's arm against the wall, and twisted until metal dropped. The gun clattered to the floor, sliding under the jukebox. Jason's voice dropped to a whisper. "That was your last mistake." He slammed the man's head into the wall once, not out of anger but necessity. The man dropped. Silence again. Jason stood still, chest heaving once, twice. The smell of gunpowder mixed with coffee and rain. The old man spoke first, voice shaking. "You could have been killed." Jason looked at him, almost smiling. "Not today." The sirens came in the distance, faint, approaching. Someone outside must have called. Jason turned to the waitress. "You've got 5 minutes before they ask questions." He reached into his pocket, pulled out a folded bill and placed it on the counter. "For the window." The waitress blinked, still trembling. "Who are you?" Jason shrugged. "Just a man who likes his coffee quiet." He turned to the old man. "You take care of yourself, yeah?" The old man nodded. "I will, and son," his voice cracked. "Thank you." Jason gave him the faintest nod, the kind that said everything words couldn't. Then he walked out into the rain, disappearing before the red lights turned the diner glass into blood-colored reflections. The waitress stared at the door long after it shut. The cook came out, pale as chalk. "You think he's some kind of cop?" She shook her head. "No, he's something better." By morning, the story spread like a whisper carried by the rain. The bullies didn't show their faces again. The gang that came after them. They left town before the week was out. The old man returned to the diner every morning after that, same booth, same coffee, no longer alone. The waitress kept the broken bottle, cleaned and polished, on the counter as a reminder, not of the violence, but of the silence that followed it. Because Jasonstatham didn't come to start fights, he came to end them. And when he walked out that night, leaving the sign still flipped to closed, nobody dared turn it back.